views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. There's a church on the Grand Concourse on 175th Street that's been grossly underutilized for years and is in serious disrepair. What to do with it? Tonight's community-minded guests want to turn it into a community and arts center. Can they realize this dream? Are there other forces out there to contend with? We are not live tonight, so we will not be accepting phone calls, but you can email comments to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org. You can also post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. But for the here and now, welcome back to Bronx Talk, the Chair of Community Board 5, Dr. Bola Omatosho. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us once again. And the board's chair of the Cultural Affairs Committee, it's Anthony Nasarino. Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with you, because you're the one who seems to have stirred everybody up about this church. So give us all a little bit of background. What happened? What was out there? And what would you like to see happen?
I moved up to the Grand Concourse about 5.5 years ago, basically directly across the street from the church. And
this is the Pilgrim United Church?
Yes.
Okay.
Standing at 1800 Grand Concourse on the corner of East 175th Street. And since I've moved up here, I just would look at the building, look at how special it was. Didn't look like anything else I've really seen in New York City on a whole, and wonder why it wasn't being used for something communal, or why it wasn't being saved or valued. And so when I got on the community board, I really tried to bring it to everyone's attention and say, we have a really unique piece of architecture here that we could turn into something great and have it be a positive force in the community.
What's currently in there right now? Who is anybody in there now? As I understand, there are some people who still use it, right? Or are there squatters in there? Give me the range of what we're finding inside.
I believe the congregation is about 5 to 8 people, and they use one of the side buildings, and they meet on a weekly basis.
And what's the condition? And we're going to show pictures. We've got video. We've got the whole thing. But what's the condition of the section that they use?
It's
same kind of thing?
It's completely run down. They said there's no heat. There are violations that go back to 1993 from the Department of Buildings and Environmental Control Board. It's not taken care of.
Who owns the property?
It's privately owned. I don't know the woman's name, but I do know it's privately owned. It's not owned by the church. Mm-hmm. And I think that she has just been completely irresponsible as far as maintaining up to even a legal code, not even an aesthetic
regardless
code.
of what the future of it will hold. Have you been in touch with her? Or
No.
has anybody? No.
Well,
all right, well, now we'll bring in the chair of the community board. So you want to respond to that, and then I have some things for you.
yes, thank you so much, Gary. With this particular property, at the level of the board, what we've been trying to do is to bring the owner to the table, so that we've been making conscious effort to reach out to her, so that we have a meeting with her and see, hopefully believing that she'll be able to work with us and help us to realize some of these dreams about the state of the disrepair of the property itself, and we move forward from there.
I guess I appreciate your positive approach to say you want to bring her, you want to engage in dialogue.
Yes.
But could there or couldn't there be some legal proceeding if the building, and we're going to show pictures, you undeniably so, the building is in such disrepair, certainly the Department of Buildings or somebody could step in and say, you know what, this is a hazard for everybody, within the vicinity, something has to be done.
Well, that is true, but in all practical purpose, there is a process for everything. I mean, it's privately owned. We cannot just overnight and say, hey, well, we take it away from you.
Right.
All right. Yes, there is a process, and we want to engage the primary owner in this process.
Explain to me what the process would be, not only to engage the dialogue that you were just talking about, but to get it from a point of, where it is now, all the way up to developing an art center or community center. When I said that, Anthony kind of smiled because that's what he wants to see.
Yes, okay. Well, as part of the community board responsibility, whenever there is a challenge in any section or any segment of the community, right, the first approach is, let's do a fact finding. Who is the owner? In this case, now we know the owner. What are the challenges that the owner is facing that we can be helpful? In this case, this is something that has been there for a while. It's an eyesore, but it's a prime property on Grand Concourse. We don't want to see Grand Concourse in that state, especially with this prime property, which has an owner. And at the same time, we have limited space, limited usage of valuable space for the community, especially when it comes to art and culture. And since Anthony came on board, he's very enthusiastic about this. And in my capacity in consultation with the executive, I appointed him as the chair of the cultural committee. And of course, he ran with a vision. Mm-hmm. I shared his vision, and the board also shared his vision.
Yes, and knowing what I know about you, folks may remember Dr. Omotosho was on our show when he ran for office, ran for city council. Know what I know about you. This would be something you would love to see. This would be
Absolutely.
Good for the community. All right, let's do this. We've got a video that Anthony provided for us. We're going to show about a minute of it. This was a group that went in there to clean it up. Give me a little background of what we're about to see.
I found this on YouTube randomly.
Was there.
Yeah.
In your research to learn more about it.
Yep, in my
Wow.
research, and it's just a group. It was a church group that went in, that decided to volunteer their own time and efforts to clean up just the interior as well as the exterior of the property.
And so they did it. So you don't even know much about the video, but listen. They say they would clean it up. You're going to see, it's not really cleaned up. We credit them for any work that they did. So you don't even know really much about it.
Well, there were tires and trash down in the vault, basically, which are in the outside of the building, which that's in the video
cleaned
also.
Up, so they did
up,
do something.
Yeah, they went into the basement and cleaned up what they were describing as foul and.
Yeah. So we're going to show a clip of this, and this is good because you'll get to see the property that we're talking about. And I guess through the magic of YouTube, we don't know where it came from, but we are going to show it because it is very visually descriptive. And so these are folks. And do we know how long ago they went at it?
I think that was maybe 2007.
Okay, so about 7-8 years ago. All right, let's, my friends, let's roll the clip and take a look.
It was interesting to see that such a big building had been neglected in such a way, especially as a church, to let a church just fall apart that way, regardless of where you are. I just feel that in most countries, churches are sacred and revered, and if there's one building that you're going to take care of, it's the church.
The church that we are working on, as far as clearing out, I was really shocked that, first off, there are people still attending the church. Like, they actually have church with their 8 or so members on Sunday, and it has filth and trash and random things thrown into the building, the house of God, what's supposed to be the house of God, So I was really disappointed, How can you allow that to happen? It looks like a garbage pit.
Well, there you go. And they said it looks like a garbage pit. The first thought, aside from even talking about all the way up to getting it to be a community center, clearly from what you saw there, it's going to take money. How do you foresee some economic package to get us from this point all the way to that point?
Hopefully this would be able to become a public-private project, which means we would get city funding for a capital project. I realize that Bronx is getting $9 million this year specifically for capital projects.
And that would not sound like a lot given the number of projects, potential projects, as well as what that might cost.
And I realize that it all can't be put into one project specifically, but if you could get a portion of that to even get the ball rolling and get a corporate or private sponsor, which that would become the public-private sector, then hopefully that it would become a combination. And yeah.
Let's ask the chair of the community board. I mean, are there people out there, are there companies out there you think that would have an interest in it? Of course, now development in the Bronx, unless they can make a lot of money, and community centers, of course, generally don't generate money. How do you envision a financial package to do it? Do we even know how much it would cost to renovate a building like that?
Well, we don't know how much it would cost, right? But with this interview which we're having, and some of the ones
you're putting it on my shoulders.
Absolutely. With this interview, it will generate more interest. We have several developers out there, several interested groups that might be able to see the need as we're trying to explain it out and championing the cause with Anthony and the county board at large, that they will see the need in having a sponsorship and support the entire project. And that's why it's very key that we're trying to bring the owner to the table. Of course, it's a prime property which several developers will want to have and use it for other purpose
I wonder. I wonder, just thinking out loud, and maybe we can cut a deal right here on the show. I wonder if somebody who has other development interests in the Bronx, that you can't pair it up and say, you know what, you get to build X, Y, and Z. You can build some housing, maybe even some market rate housing, along with this community center, and then you get to, and create a package. Is that the kind of a package that could work with a for-profit private developer?
Oh, absolutely. These are suggestions that we intend to bring to the table to the owners, so that we be able to. Bottom line, the owner will want some.
Do you know who it is? Do we know that? Is that the kind of, because I hadn't been able to find it.
Well, the district manager have been. We're getting close to it.
We're getting closer.
Yes, maybe by the end of this show, the owner will be watching this as well, and she might call us up tomorrow and say, "Hey, Bola, let's talk, Xavier. Let's see what it is."
Discuss for me, and this is almost a redundant question because every neighborhood in the Bronx will be able to answer this question, but discuss for me the need for something like that, a community center in this community.
Good. Our community, which is Bod 5, of course, the boundaries, Fordham Road to Cross Bronx, Major Digging to Webster. We're a very small, young community.
Meaning there are young people
in that community, and we have limited open space. And culture is one of the things that integrate people together, and that's one of the things that we like. And we have very few community centers. One of the communities that have very little space where you can have the youth being able to establish what they need and on and on. Bronx Museum, which is very close to us, is in Bod 4. Right, and that's the closest.
As well as the Andrew Friedman home.
Absolutely, they're in Bod 4, but we're at Bod 5. And of course, we're saturated with other things, but this is something that will be very helpful.
Folks, we have other pictures, so we can put up some of those pictures while Anthony is answering this question. Give me the vision. Maybe I should ask you that from the beginning. What do you, when you look at some of these photos that we're looking at now, what would you like to see in that space? And what about that space in particular makes you real excited?
Okay, well, we'll start with that. In particular, I found out that the architects were named Hopin and Cohen, and they also designed the former NYPD headquarters, which is on Center Street, downtown.
As people can see, the beautiful church that
it's stunning, and it's one of a kind, and that's the reason why I think that it should be saved and transformed into something, and whether it be an art center or whatever, just keep the structure the same.
Right. Now, this is a photograph that you particularly like. What about this strikes you?
You could see the round ceiling with round windows. The whole altar could be used as a stage. And I think that if you're
performing arts
center, yeah, for the community, not only for children.
Sure.
This would be like BAM in Brooklyn, something like that.
So, you talked about a public-private partnership. Certainly, if somebody wanted to open up a theater of some sort and bring, like here, you can see how gorgeous that would be.
It seats 370 people.
Mm-hmm. Is that organ still in operation?
I don't know. I believe it's still there. But
by the way, I want to mention this photograph was taken by our friends at the Daily News, and they got into it. So this is the most recent photograph of the interior of that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And also, it wouldn't only be a community center. It would be a Mount Hope Center of the Arts, which would be encompassing performance arts, which would be used in the main area of where the church was. You could have classrooms in the side buildings, yoga studios, art studios, dance studios.
It's like, how much can you dream, right?
Yeah, but the space is huge.
So let's talk reality in the Bronx. Now, let's just say, and you and I had this dialogue a little while back, let's say this doesn't happen. What other forces are out there, or who else would be interested in this building? And if let's say, this dream doesn't come true, what could happen, or what are the other options for this building if you don't have your way?
Well, I was told that it was going to be demolished as of next year.
Demolished?
Yeah, and supportive housing was going to go up for HASA, which is for people living with HIV and AIDS, which that's fine, and I'm not against supportive housing, but you could put it at another location. There was also a church that was demolished on Burnside, East Burnside in the Grand Concourse, that was supposed to become a housing development, and that lot is still sitting empty for developmental usage.
So your concern is that they would take it down and you'd see even worse than an abandoned church with possibilities, but nothing. Dr. Omotosho, you are involved in the city and you know what the tenor is like. Let's just say that somehow the dream doesn't come true. What are the possibilities for that site? I mean, is his fears realized there?
Well, there are a couple of options, and that's why I will go back to my initial statement of engaging the owner. Now, if the owner hypothetically decide to sell this property or lease it to a developer who wants to put a supportive housing, that process, even if it's as of right, depending on their funding source, they still have to come before the committee board, come before the Housing and Economic Development, and come before the General Committee Board if they should need a letter of support. Unfortunately, at this time, with all the excitement about his dream and the dream of a community that, oh, is this possible? It's not impossible. Let's give it a trial. And I mean, as a board, as a chair, I'm supportive of having a cultural something. I mean, center.
Basically, what you're saying is, don't come to us asking for a letter of support for something like that.
Absolutely.
And also,
we open to negotiation,
right.
Not
let's say
on a case-by-case basis.
Let's say the property is then transferred to a developer who wants to put market rate housing in there. And listen, we need housing. You could get 25% affordable, which is apparently what the percentages that we're getting. What if they say they want to do affordable housing? I mean, starts to be hard to turn down, no?
Well, if they want to put a supportive, I mean, let's say affordable housing
Right.
at a market rate or whatever, and we also negotiate, listen, this is Grand Concourse. We want a community center which will be accessible to the community. We can also still be able to realize the dream of having a section of it, or maybe the ground floor, which usually some of the developers want to have mixed use for commercial purpose, right? Not just affordable only, but commercial on the first floor. And they can still be able to accommodate the dream that we have for the same location.
Anthony, is there any time frame, anything here, any deadlines or anything, or it's just a matter of waiting till either somebody does something or you folks in the community board can make something happen?
No, I don't know of any time frame right now, but I do know that the lot that the church stands on is not zoned to be residential. So it would have to be rezoned to be residential, which
That's
would have
a big process.
and that is a big process. So
Can be done, but
even though it's privately owned, you can't just put up a building where it's not zoned for.
right.
So hopefully that would buy us some time.
What are the political winds like in that community? For now, the council member is Councilmember Torres. Has he weighed in on this? And then I guess the assemblyman is Victor Pichardo.
Pichardo,
Right?
that's right.
What's the dialogue like?
Assemblyman Victor Pichardo is completely for saving it, landmarking it, and transforming it into an art center.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure Councilman Torres is as well. I spoke with
Okay.
him. His fear is that if it were to be landmarked, which I would like to see the building be landmarked, that if we do not get a private sponsor or a corporate sponsor, is it going to sit there and rot? Which is a fair, that's
Concern, yeah.
Yes.
And you don't want that either, obviously.
No,
this
I
is
don't.
not good
That's
for
not-
any
no.
community to have that.
But we also did lose our cultural center, was the Lowe's Paradise Theater, and even though that's still standing and that is landmarked, that's now taken over by a church group. So it's not a communal use. It's not an art center. There are no concerts, no live music, and that is what
Has
we had.
the borough president's office weighed in on it yet?
Not
Not
to my
to your
not to
knowledge.
me. No.
Right. Dr. Omotosho, we're almost out of time. Give me your time frame. I mean, obviously you want to make things happen right away, but tell me how you see this playing out and what you'd like to see time-wise.
Okay. The way it's playing out, I will put it this way. When Anthony came on board, and he's so passionate with this process, we put him on the driver's seat. So,
Listen, he bugged me plenty.
Thank you.
And here we are on TV.
so now we have him on driver's seat, which makes it a lot easier for us. And he's done a lot of work in terms of putting in a lot of time, doing the research about it, which is exactly what the county board is all about. The baseline grassroots tier of government. Now, taking it to the next step, it's created a lot of awareness to our elected officials, and everybody is now looking at the possibilities of what are the options. And hopefully by the end of this presentation tonight, somebody will talk to the developer.
All right.
Somebody will talk to the owner. Like, hey, wait,
Okay,
listen.
now I'm going to give you my, I don't know how much time is left, but I'm
Yes.
going to give you my editorial opinion. I am
Thank you.
sick and tired of hearing in the Bronx people coming on this show and everywhere I talk to, we need more services for our kids, we need performing arts areas, we need things for our adults and seniors to do, we need community centers because this is how we're going to build the Bronx and save the Bronx. Nothing against development, nothing against the absolute need for housing for AIDS patients or supportive housing. If you really want to build the Bronx, take a place like this,
Yes.
turn it into a community center, do the right thing for more people, and guess what? Crime will go down, health indicators will be better off, economic development will do better. That's how we're going to build the Bronx. Okay, was that good?
That's great.
Very good.
So,
And let me just use a little 2-second soundbite to wish our officers from 46th Precinct,
absolutely.
to wish them quick recovery.
Quick recovery and thank them for their service.
And thank them for their
Dr.
service.
Bola Omotosho, thank you. Anthony Nasarino, thank you for your passion and for wanting to do what I think and what Bronx Talk thinks is the right thing for the Bronx.
Thank
If
you.
you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at BronxTalk@BronxNet.org or put them on our Facebook page and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. Please like Bronx Talk on Facebook, and you can check out our archives at BronxNet.org. You'll find Bronx Talk on the lower right navigation bar. Producer Dahlia, director is Shirley, Helen helps out, all the other folks around here, cast of thousands. We thank you, and I'm serious about what I said about that. We need this church to be turned into a community center. All right? Thank you. Good night.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's going to happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Live with a human for a while, and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she does strange tricks.